You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we are talking about the film Dawn of the Dead, directed by Zach Snyder, written by James Gunn, released March 19th, 2004. That's right, it is part 2 of our first ever little double dip, as I was calling it last week, and I'm going to stick with it for now, for forever. I don't know. We'll see. So for those of you who've been following along, and maybe you're just jumping in on this one randomly, last week we covered the 1978 original George Romero, Dawn of the Dead. And so this one, it's going back to back. This week we are covering the 2004 Zack Snyder remake, where we can talk all good things about it, but also kind of compare things to the first one. And I'm excited because those of you who know me know, and I mentioned it last week too, this is my favorite zombie movie, favorite horror movie, and if it wasn't for Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, my favorite movie of all time. It's like a close second. So
nothing ever will pass Scott Pilgrim.
No.
It would have to be something incredibly special.
Yeah, but this movie is a very close second. Like I said, it's right there on the heels of Mr. Pilgrim. So
yeah, this, as we talked about before, the 1978 version is my favorite. This one is Pake's favorite.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. And so you guys know, it's weird how time works, because as I'm recording this, we don't know how long this episode's going to go. But you, the listener, in the future, can look at the time and say, and know how long this is going to go. So I'm sorry if this is a 3-hour podcast. We will try to keep it not, but God, I can go on forever about this movie.
Yeah. It's a good thing we kind of have like a podcast episode structure that we can follow, because I do think we're going to go on for quite a while about this one. There's just so much to love and talk about and break down. So maybe we shouldn't delay it any longer and we'll just get started.
Sounds great.
All right. So we'll start off with a few behind the scenes things. This movie was filmed in the Thornhill Square Mall in Thornhill, Ontario, Canada. It was also filmed in Caledon, Ontario. It was filmed on the backlot of Universal Studios in Universal City, California, and Santa Catalina Island in the Channel Islands in California. Snyder wanted this to be his first feature film because it gave him, quote, a reason to care about every shot. He didn't want his version to be a direct comparison, so rather than a straight remake, it's more of a re-envisioning of the 1978 Dawn of the Dead by George A. Romero. It's set in Milwaukee, and like the original, it follows a group of survivors who make themselves at home in a suburban shopping mall during a zombie apocalypse. TV producer Eric Newman came up with the idea to remake the original film as he considered it the best in the genre. He cited updated versions of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Thing, and The Fly as influences as, quote, great movies that add to rather than diminish the original films. Snyder was used to filming commercials, and so this film was shot in chronological order, because he thought, like commercials, you just start on page 1. That kind of made everyone chuckle. This was due to be released in the UK in the same week as the similar Shaun of the Dead, but they elected to push it back for 2 weeks. The budget for the film was $28 million. Because House of the Dead had been a box office flop in 2003, Universal significantly slashed the budget, thinking that the public was probably not interested in zombie films. The opening weekend take of $26.7 million almost met its budget in the first 3 days, and it went on to gross $102 million.
Nice.
It is 100 minutes long. Pake, take it away.
A nurse, a policeman, a young married couple, a salesman, and other survivors of a worldwide plague that is producing aggressive flesh-eating zombies take refuge in a mega Midwestern shopping mall.
Yes. Who wouldn't want to? I mean, we've talked about this last week when we covered the original. The mall would just be such a great place to hold up, especially if everything was locked up and it was just a few people in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Now this cast is much larger than the cast of the original film. There's
yes, it is.
A lot more people, and you know the reason why there's so many more people is because there's a lot more bodies.
Yes.
It's a much bigger cast, and that's because, you know, you have a whole lot more characters. You get to squeeze in a whole lot more character deaths.
Absolutely. That is something that I think Zach Snyder likes to do in his movies. So this was his first one to actually go out there and be like, okay, let's expand the cast. Let's take out a few more people. And yeah, at the end, very small group makes it onto the boat. Yeah.
Which, again, we talked about, you know, they made, like, I do love, you know, I'll go back to our episode last week. So if you haven't heard that, I don't know, maybe go check that out, because I do make a lot of teases to what we'll talk about today. But yeah, because I mentioned, like, oh, you know, in the first movie, in the original, there's just like a little throwaway line about a group of people going to a boat to find an island. And that becomes the final goal in this movie, is that's what they end up doing. So I like that Zack Snyder took some of the really small little side plot or ideas in the first one and ended up making them much bigger plots in this movie.
He did. He expanded on a few things that I think made this story better, especially because, I mean, the original was created in 1978. So we're talking about, what, let's see, 26 years after the original, they came out with this one. So I think what he added was able to update the film in a way that brought it into the 21st century.
Yeah, it's great. All right. So I guess the best way to go, you know what we do, we kind of break down, kind of going through characters and talk about different arcs and things like that. Of course, with as many characters in this movie, like I mentioned, it is a much more ensemble cast. And when we get those kind of movies, it's easier for us to jump all over the place because all of our notes are connected to other characters. So just go on the ride with us because we're going to be bouncing all over this movie.
Yeah, we are. I like the way that at the beginning we kind of eased into Anna's life, like her job as a nurse, and, you know, she gets home and I think her boyfriend, I think he was her boyfriend.
It doesn't really specify boyfriend, husband, fiance, something. They've been together. Yeah, so she gets home for date night, and we're just kind of seeing her coming home, having a little date night. It kind of eases into it. We know things are going on because we can see the bite wounds on the people that come into the hospital where she works. And he made sure to show us that. Like, I feel like Zack Snyder really was careful to make sure that we saw, without all sorts of, we're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. He actually showed us things like bite wounds and talking about a patient that came in with a bite wound that ended up in the ICU and things like that. Like, he told that story without fanfare and craziness. Yeah, it's a little more subtle and mysterious as the first version, the original version of this movie. Where, you know, that movie kicks off, they're in the news studio just being like, they're zombies, basically. Like, they're killing people. And with this one, Anna's working in the hospital, and it's just like these little things like, you know, he's in the ICU just because of a bite, you know, they leave it at that. Or even when she gets off work and she's in the car and just like the quick little radio scan, you know, not an isolated event, move to the other thing. Yeah. You know, like these like little things, or while they're in the shower doing their thing, the TV's like, you know, this emergency broadcast. And there's like those little hints. I mean, you know what movie you're getting into. So as you're seeing that, even if it's the first time you've watched this, you're like, yeah, we know what's going on. But the characters don't at this point, which is cool.
No, they do not. They don't. We get to see them kind of come to that realization, and I liked her right from the beginning. I mean, she really wants to go home from work, and that doctor was not having any of it. He was just being a real jerk.
Yeah, the patient that was admitted at 6 a.m.
Yes.
When I started my shift.
She just wanted to get home. She really did. And he was just being difficult. You know, he's like, no, you bring me the patient or you tell me where it is. And then she finally just asks the front desk person to just, can you page him and let him know where the patient is? And I don't blame her because honestly, you know, people get burned out from being overworked. And given what our own healthcare workers are going through right now, I'm just like, you know what? This is beyond. You do not need to be doing this. So I'm glad that she kind of stood up for herself.
Yeah, I have a note in there. It's a little further down, but I'll jump to it. I kind of made this note after, you know, she's stitching up Kenneth after his slice in the fountain and things. But when she's talking about, we need to stitch him up, I need to do this. And we get that, you know, what are you, a fucking doctor? And she goes, no, I'm a fucking nurse. And I
love that. That's in my notes as well.
Because I say, which, like, let's be honest, that is way more helpful in this situation.
Yes.
Nurses have so much more hands-on experience. Yeah, doctors have their specialized skills, but nurses have to be able to handle all of it and juggle all of it. So I wanted to make sure to, you know, talking about Anna as her nurse was like, you know what, break the wall of the podcast a little bit. And like, to those who are listening, you know, I don't know how many people who are listening to this podcast are nurses or in the medical field, but specifically nurses in this instance. Shout out to you guys. We love you. You're amazing.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Definitely. You handle so much more than you probably get credit for, and we definitely appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. But back into the story, so nurse goes home, and things then happen very quickly. Yeah. Vivian, the neighbor girl, which is the first zombie we get to see, which, great way to start it.
Yes. It made me think of Rick in The Walking Dead with the little girl with the pink bathrobe.
Uh-huh. Had to be... I don't... Because, again, bad fan. I don't remember when the comics for The Walking Dead started. Because, I mean, obviously the first season of Walking Dead was 2010, but it still could have been which one was paying homage to which, depending on when the comics started. Because that's the first issue. Like, so it's like,
I don't know. I don't know. If you guys know, why don't you point that out for us?
Yeah, so let us know. I don't know which is first. I should know. Bad, because I have a lot of like Walking Dead references that I'll make in this episode coming up. But I say a couple. But but yeah, it's great. I mean, we get, you know, literally and figuratively, the movie and zombie Vivian go right for the jugular, and we start off just going right into it. Not a problem. Lewis is bitten. He's donezo. He's gone.
It's over pretty fast. And Anna she doesn't have time to even put shoes on, okay? She's trying to save his life, and then watching her try to save him and watching him bleed out, it was just sad. I felt bad for her because you could tell that, you know, anyone in that situation would be devastated. And you could tell that it was really affecting her.
Yeah.
She's still trying to call 911 and not getting through when he reanimates, which is one thing I noticed because I took some specific notes about the zombie process in this. And one of the things is the reanimation is quick.
Very quick. It is not the Romero original of I've seen somebody not last longer than 3 days. No, you don't see anybody last longer than 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It moves very quickly. The reanimation after death. It's very, very quick. This was our first chance to actually see that. Yeah, so that was one thing that I noticed right away. So he's the second zombie that we see. Yeah. And of course he wants to eat her, which, I mean, that's a zombie thing. They want to consume you like your food. They want to feed on your flesh. That's what they do. So he was trying to catch her, and she's in the bathroom just trying to figure out what the hell to do.
God, that bathtub stunt where she runs in and then just falls back through the curtain.
I know.
I don't know if that was Sarah Polley or if it was a stunt performer. I'm assuming there's a stunt performer in that bit because holy crap, that was rough. Like every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, man.
Oh, painful.
Just
so painful.
Diving through there.
Yeah. And you could tell, too, by the look on her face. She doesn't know what to do next, but she also doesn't know how to process and deal with what's happening right now. Like, she doesn't have time to be dealing with the loss of her significant other.
Yeah.
Or that Vivian bit him. I mean, she doesn't have time to deal with any of this.
Yeah.
Because she has to be in survival mode trying to figure out what the heck to do. And that's when, he starts banging on the door and then he stops and it's so quiet and she thinks he may have left.
Lewis? Here's Lewis.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah.
I knew it.
You know me well.
I know you will.
It's funny, yeah, because I've seen this movie so many times that, like, beat for beat, I'm just like, and then this, and then this, and then this. And so it's like, I'm waiting, and everything's quiet, and then I was like, and bam! And then out the window, and then, like, I'm like, I had to stop myself because I'm so bad. Even when I'm alone, I'm watching, I was like, chase the car, chase the car, chase the car, and now you're distracted by somebody else, and go. Like,
Ugh. I mean,
it's like funny where it's like, the guy gets hit by the ambulance. It was like, and then it turns around, and Lewis is back. And I'm just like narrating it because I've seen it so many times.
I know.
It's like I'm calling the shots, like I'm directing it. Like, and now this happens, and then this happens.
Yeah, she didn't have time. I mean, she walks out of the house and it does not look like it did when she pulled into that driveway the day before. It definitely is like a war zone out there now. And I mean, she's got the crazy neighbor with the gun who doesn't know if she, because they don't know. Like, they don't understand what's happening yet because no one really knows. And he's holding the gun. And then, like you said, the ambulance. And then she just gets in the car and just tries to get away. Mm-hmm. But not before Lewis gets onto the windshield and breaks it, smashes it because he's trying to get to her. I felt for her because she really had no time to process anything. It was really just, holy shit, what do I do? I can't grieve. Like, I can't do anything. I can't deal with it because it's just out of control. This is just not, it doesn't make sense.
So we could talk about, she kind of gets away. There's I did tease it a little bit. This is in like other notes, not really about Anna, but I don't want to give you a shot-for-shot recap of the whole movie, but because I did tease this scene a little bit last week, talking about the original, the overhead shot, which is one of my favorites. Again, I'm like directing it. I'm like, okay, she's driving, and van. Like, I'm just like, but we get this van T-boning the car, and they go slide into the gas station, and I was like, and boom,
boom,
like just. Such a good visual, and I love it every time.
I love overhead shots because I think they can be so impactful when they're done the right way, and this one very much was. Yeah.
And she winds up at the bus. Somebody, tries to get in. She fights him off, wrecks. And then we get the opening credits, all that. I'll talk about that stuff later. But
yes, the opening
moving
credits.
on.
Oh my gosh, so much in those opening credits.
Yep. Moving on, that's where she meets Kenneth, Michael, Andre, Luda, and pretty quickly the group and the plot move to the mall.
Yes, they do. It looks so nice there. No one was in the driveway, no one was in the parking lot.
Yeah.
It was all empty, like a holiday. And I did find out that when they were looking for a mall to shoot this, their idea was picking a mall that had already been closed, like one that was set for demolition, that they could just go in and turn it into what they wanted to without any worry about what was going to happen next.
Yeah, because they could change all the stores. I mean, they're all made up stores and names and places, and they could do a lot of fun stuff with it.
Yeah, they did. There were two that allowed them to use their names, but all of the rest were made up.
Yeah.
I did like Hallowed Grounds, though.
Hallowed Grounds is my favorite.
Isn't it great? I love it. Like, oh my gosh. That was really cool. Surprised no one has used that since. Seems like it would be a great...
I feel like there probably is, like a...
Yeah.
Independently owned somewhere. There has to be.
Yeah, there has to be.
And I want to go there.
Yes.
But yeah. They enter the mall with a chunked toilet and then a nice Muzak rendition of Don't Worry, Be Happy. I love it.
Yes.
Muzak comes up twice in this movie. Really fun. That I
yes,
love.
It does.
The next one we'll get to. But like this one is like, because it's just like after all the horror they've been through real quickly, and they get this little moment of reprieve, but you just do 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 do. It's just like it's calm for now.
Yes, for now. Give us a little time and it will really like light up. Be busy. Be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Craziness.
Yeah. I mean, they deal with a few zombies, meet a few people, do a few things. I'll talk about those people later. But, because the next note that I really have on Anna that I want to get to is, like, once she's dealing with other people who have joined the group when they come in on the truck. So, talk about a lot of those.
There was one thing, though, that I wanted to mention. It happened about the time that she was stitching up Kenneth.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has to go in to get the kit, and she kind of takes a moment to break down.
Yeah, she finally can somewhat
let it
process.
out.
Yeah.
Because she hasn't had time. She hasn't stopped long enough to actually breathe. It's just been crazy.
Yeah.
Go, 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 go. No time to stop. And so she needed that opportunity to kind of lose it. And then, of course, Bart is like banging on the door. Hurry up.
Mm-hmm.
Pissed me off.
I love Bart. I don't know why. He's a douchebag.
I don't know why. How? Why?
I don't. It's something about the delivery of the actor, Michael Berry, which he never really went on to do much of anything else.
No.
This is kind of like his only role, really. But I don't know. There's just something about his delivery. Like one of the first, like the quotes that I always go to with this movie is his. And it's just, and I have it later, but I'll talk about it now because the second that they go up the elevator and find the security trio, I'll call them, the second that I see Bart, immediately in my head just plays, shit rolls downhill. Like that's...
I was so pissed.
I love that quote so much. I don't know why, but it's when I see his face, it's the first thing I think of every time is him saying
Oh
that.
my gosh. That's in my notes too. The way that he in particular treats Terry pisses me off so much. Like, don't be mean to him. It's not fair. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah, but the short and long of it, because we'll talk about stuff. Yes, the security trio doesn't want them there, but they stay anyway. Kind of take over because CJ's not the leader he thinks he is. And
no, he's a bit of a jerk, honestly. Yeah. CJ is a jerk. And yeah.
So they end up taking in the other people when they show up. Norma and her truck of ragtag renegades that she picked up from a church.
Because she was in the area.
Because she's there. Might as well.
She's liked her.
A better person than CJ is in that moment for sure, because he doesn't want them in.
No.
But then you can't blame them, I guess, because they don't know the situation. But they bring in, it's just the wheelbarrow lady, I'll call her. She's credited as bloated lady, but that seems a little mean.
Yeah, she did not look well. And according to them, she had walked onto the truck 5 hours earlier. So that gave an indication of how quickly that virus took over.
Yeah, and I love, even though, again, there's no tension in it because I've seen this movie 7 billion times, but I do love that knowing somebody who hasn't seen it feels that tension. I love the little fake tense moments that like make you think something's going to happen and then nothing does.
Yes.
You know, underwater while she's washing her hands in the fountain earlier, but then when the wheelbarrow lady dies, and you get that little moment where she's checking her pulse and like ear to her mouth, listening for breathing, and you're like, I love it.
Yes. You think that she's going to bite her ear or, attack her. And she doesn't. And that's kind of like, okay, you're setting us up for this. And then boom, like a minute later, when she goes over to take care of
Frank.
I mean, she's just there basically saying, I need to clean this up. I need to, we need to get this washed out. And Terry's like, Anna, because bloated lady just sits up in bed.
Yeah.
Opens her eyes and you can tell they're all infected. And, well, it's a shit show.
Which then, that's when Anna puts the, pieces together and realizes it's the bites. Who have you bitten? It doesn't take long, for infection to set in. It kills you. It's the bites that kill you. It's the bites that bring you back.
Yes.
And that, of course, spells tragedy for Frank before he even knows it. And also, Andre has to keep secret that it's bad news for Luda as well. Surprisingly, it's one thing, as much as I love this movie, You know how I am. I'll point things out, even the ones I love the most. How nobody knew that Luda got bit. I mean, because it even seems like she was stitched up on her arm a little bit. Unless Andre did that himself. But it's just kind of, because it was that same moment. It was Ben Cozine that bit her. Right? Before he jumps into the tank with Kenneth.
I feel like it was more of a scratch than a bite. Which is still a death sentence.
Oh, yeah.
Because it moves very, very quickly. And yeah, I don't know why they didn't notice. Because I'm watching it and I noticed, I guess I've seen it enough times that I would.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can tell, with her and then even Michael later, you see the exact moment where they get bit or scratched or whatever. And then, since I've seen it a billion times, it's nope, you can't hide it. I know, I saw it. Because they put it in there. They let you see it if you're quick enough. And or ever seen it so many times, you know where to look.
You just have to pay attention. If you're watching it, when Anna jumps back onto the truck, she's having trouble getting onto the truck because there are a lot of zombies around. And he tries to help her, and it's during that that he gets bit. So sad.
But yeah, and then Anna doesn't have a lot to do. She's there, she has some lines, some moments, but, then we focus a lot more on some of those side characters and get a lot of those side stories for most of the movie. Up until the end where she shows that she follows through on her promises, specifically to Steve.
And I'm so happy that she did. Because Steve was a waste of space.
Oh, man. It's one of my favorite things. So I'll jump into my Steve note for a second just because it's a great line. One of my favorites in the movie. So I have it. He's like, hey, sweetheart, let me tell you something. You have my permission. I ever turn into one of those things? Do me a favor. Blow my fucking head off. And then Anna responds, oh, yeah, you can count on that. Yes. Which is best foreshadowing ever because then the second that he comes back as a zombie and she without any problem, just all right, I made a deal. Right. Bang.
Yeah. Luckily, it was about that time that she remembered they need his keys for the boat. Because that is what he was good for. Because at that point, I'm looking at, at the beginning, I thought CJ was useless. But by the end, I've realized, no, he's not useless.
Yeah.
Steve was useless.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So many times he was supposed to do things and did not. He had a lot of great one-liners. His dialogue was hilarious.
Ty Burrell is so funny.
Well, he had a lot of fun with Monica. It was a lot of fun that they were having together.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, he was a waste of space.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, that's all he was good for was the keys. And Anna gets that. Although... don't know how good that really was. Because, I said we're going to jump around a lot. Because now I'm talking credits. I'm talking end of movie. But yeah, they're on the boat. They find Steve's camera. So we get to see he was douchey all the time.
So sleazy. Sleazy.
They sail away to their island paradise. Except there's no happy ending. It's just a bad time. A lot of little problems on the boat. And then they finally make it to the island. And it's also swarmed with zombies, so, wonderful.
Yeah.
In a classic Romero style, we talked about last week that Romero changed the ending to the original Dawn of the Dead to be happier, but it was also going to be depressing like Night of the Living Dead. So I think Snyder resorted back to that. It was like, what if we just ended with, everybody's going to die. Who cares?
Yeah, that was really sad. The whole scenario that took place once they left the dock was just really depressing. I mean, it was bad enough when they had to pull away from the dock and you see Michael is standing there with the gun and he puts it up to his chin. And then we go to Anna, who's watching him. She's obviously upset. It fades to black. We hear the gunshot. And then music starts and we're getting these random clips from the video camera that was on the boat. And Kenneth has no time for that. He doesn't want anything to do with the video camera. He's very no nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really no nonsense and doesn't want to be bothered with any of that. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, which is so in his character the whole time, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, but, even right at the beginning when he comes upon Anna or they run into each other, he just kind of looks at her. and looks back at her and then looks ahead and just keeps going. Like he
does make sure say something. Like he's very, as long as you're talking and you're alive, then whatever. If you want to come, when you come. But
yeah. And he knows that she's following him. I mean, she doesn't even have any shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the silliest things. Like, I'm thinking about, she has no shoes. That must really hurt her feet. Like, that would suck.
Yeah. Yeah, that is all of my Anna-specific notes.
Let me see if I have any other Anna-specific notes. I liked her character because I thought she was really strong from the beginning. I don't feel like she had to have this huge arc because she was already pretty much a good person.
Yeah, she was kind of our everyday person through line that you really get to follow throughout the movie.
Yes. Yes. So I really liked her. I thought she brought a lot to the movie. I didn't think she had a lot of change in her character. She just stayed that constant, like you said, she's the thread, the through line for the movie. I feel like, she went through a lot. I mean, she lost her significant other, and then she starts to have this thing with Michael, and then he's gone by the end. And I just felt bad. It's like, oh.
Yeah. So if that's all, then kind of where you ended that ties into next character that I've got a few notes, not a lot, but I don't have a lot of notes for him, but Michael definitely did play a very important, pivotal role to this movie, specifically because he's the idea man.
Yes, he is.
They're, when they move on to something else that drives the plot forward, it's usually Michael behind the wheel of that.
Yes.
He's the guy that has the idea of putting the SOS and the signage and stuff on the roof. And I love how CJ's kind of like, you can see like the little internal struggle in his head. He's like, damn, that's a really good idea. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, we need to do that.
I have to totally act like, yeah, totally, that was my idea. You should do that. Let me make sure I'm in charge and tell people what to do.
Yeah, I mean, he also said, we need to get this building locked down and clean up any that are inside.
Yeah.
They did that. Threw the bodies off the roof. They, with Michael, like you said, CJ was really conflicted. Like he didn't want to deal with his ideas, but he knew they were good ones, so he had to do it.
Yep.
But Michael, though he was an important character, there were things about him that were kind of sad also. Like they're kind of talking to him at one point and, well, why should we listen to you? And they ask him what he does for a living, and he's like, well, I sell TVs at Best Buy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I believe it was Andre that just starts talking to Kenneth and said, do you really want to be told what to do by someone who sells TVs at Best Buy? Because knowing that Kenneth's a cop, why would he want to?
Right.
So
then Kenneth responds, so there's like, the person who sells a TV is not any better than the person who steals them.
I liked that.
Which is just coming from my memory because that whole scene is in the director's cut, which I found out while watching this I don't own. I thought I did. Because again, I've seen it so many times. I go through the beats and then there were certain scenes or lines that I was waiting for and then they didn't happen. And I was like, excuse me? So that's when I realized the version that I've seen a million times that I kept renting over and over and watching with my friends is not the one that I ended up buying and putting on my shelf that I haven't really touched too much lately. So then it's like, I don't have the director's cut, which I've seen. I fixed that problem immediately. I went on Amazon and ordered it, so don't worry. I've got it coming. But yeah, so there's so many like little scenes and lines, and that's one of them is that little exchange with Andre and Kenneth that's not in the original version that I watched and maybe other people have seen. And so I was like, oh, man. So I know I'm going to break away a little bit, but I'll talk about some of those because I made a little list of things. I was like, well, this was supposed to happen, but I didn't see it. So Daphne watched the director's cut, I think, without even realizing it.
I did.
So it's funny that some of those little things, so there's like stuff that makes CJ a little bit more likable, like while he's in the cell. He's taking a relationship quiz. He's like, oh, trust is the most important part of a relationship, which comes back when they're in the parking garage when he's talking to Michael about needing a gun or something. He uses that line again. He's trust is the most important part of a relationship, which is fun. Or we get Glenn like coming in while CJ's locked up and talking about his sexuality. And, you know, he's like, I realized I was gay when I was 13 years old. And CJ's like, oh my God, I don't want to hear any of this.
Yes.
Which is funny. There's more nudity in the director's cut.
Yes.
There's a naked like lady by the bus that Anna sees at the beginning of the movie, and we get like extended shots between Steve and Monica.
Yes, Steve and Monica have a lot of fun. They occupy their time together.
Yeah, there's extra. Yeah, for sure. There's some extra gory stuff. Like there's extra gore added to some of the zombie kills and some extra zombie kills. There's a second propane. Well, if you watch the original version, there's only 2 propane tank explosions. The one that CJ throws off the bus, and then the one CJ blows himself up with. In the director's cut, there's also a second one that makes the final one, the third one, where he throws it off the roof of a building.
Of Andy's. It was at Andy's gun shop. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, was added. There's a little bit of like Michael and Anna kissing in the, but like giving them a little bit more romantic. That wasn't in the original cut. And then there's an extended ending that shows more of Michael killing himself or whatever. That's not in the original. I mean, like you see him pull the gun out of his pocket, but that's it. And so you get a little bit more confirmation of what goes on in the extended. But
yeah, the version I saw, he actually brought it up and put it under his chin. So you could tell that's what he was going to do. And then when it faded to black, we heard the gunshot.
Yeah. But yeah, where was I at? Yeah, just talking about those extended ones. I was like, man, I haven't seen the extended in a little bit, but I still remember all those scenes. So I was waiting for them, and then they didn't happen. Oh, dang.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, Michael, again, idea man, because it wasn't just that, because it was his idea, really him and Kenneth, I think, that since they were down in the parking garage, it's like, there's all those buses, we can soup them up, make some battle buses. It was his idea to have the little chainsaw slots on the sides, which didn't work out in the end as well.
Not for Monica or Glenn.
No.
Did not work out for them at all. However, Anna seemed to like them.
Yeah.
She said, that might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever shown me. And then after that, they kind of kissed and were having a thing.
But yeah, sure. The idea is, again, it's Steve's idea technically to take the boat, but he was being an asshole and just doing what he does, being sarcastic and smarmy. And Michael actually runs with it. It's like, actually, that's a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not, but at least they thought it could be. And so that's what leads them there is, again, Michael kind of steering the ship, no pun intended. But that's kind of where it ends up going. So yeah, he's that idea guy. So yeah, we get to where they're on the way to the boat. One of the buses flips. Things go very bad for quite a few people. But that's where Anna goes back for those keys. Michael keeps yelling, Anna, Anna, Anna. And I was like, who are you, John Silver? And Daphne's probably the only person who's going to get that joke, and that's okay. I'm not going to. If anybody does get it, you're awesome. So just be happy.
Oh my gosh. I knew you would go there. I knew it. I anticipate it now. I anticipate you going to these places.
Yes. And then, but Michael makes that kind of final choice because he's the one that makes the call that so if it's the bites, then we have to make sure. We know Frank is bitten, so we have to take care of him. I'm glad they kind of talk him down from just jumping the gun and, killing him outright and letting Kenneth sit with him and waiting for him to turn and letting him kind of go out on those terms, which was nice. But Michael knows what's got to come. So he makes sure to get them on the boat, get them safe. And then, like we've mentioned a couple times, he kind of goes out on his own terms, making sure the rest of his team gets away first. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is an appropriate analysis. I don't have anything to add.
So, cool. Then the next one, I've got a few. Kenneth, Ving Rhames.
You only have
badass
a few.
Extraordinaire. I do. I only have a few.
He was so good. Oh my gosh.
Because a lot of his other stuff is, it's all tied in with other people too. So it's, but yeah, just a badass for sure. His main goal is he wants to go to Fort Pastor to find his brother.
Yes.
But then he just keeps running against, I swear I don't do these puns on purpose, but roadblocks. But that's why he can't. Is, at first Michael and Andre tell him, like, there's, that whole road is swarmed and, like, it's bad. But then they're watching on TV and you get the general, who is, I'll talk about that later.
Yes,
saying, you need to get to Fort Pastor. And he's like, well, then I got to go. But then when Norma and the group show up, Norma is able to tell him, and Steve too, like, Fort Pastor's where we came from and it's gone. It's fucked. Everyone's dead there. Well, dead-ish.
Yes.
In the way that they fell down and then got back up and then started eating people.
Yes. Yes. I think it took that, though. Kenneth asked them twice, is everyone there dead? And he didn't take the first answer. He didn't take the dead-ish.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted, I don't know. I don't think he trusted Steve.
Yeah. Well, who would?
Nobody.
We've learned you shouldn't.
No. He's never where he's supposed to be.
Yeah. So he decides he's going to take off anyway, but then he makes a trip to the roof first. And there's a little rooftop notepad, or dry erase board conversation with Andy that kind of sets him back straight, realizing there really is no point in heading out. And just like Michael had told him, there are people here who need you.
Mm-hmm. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
I also liked that Andy's response to that was, what's the bad news?
Mm-hmm. Andy's such a great character.
I liked him. We didn't get enough time with him. Although I think on the DVD, there's a whole mini video thing with him, with his character.
Yep. I had a note about that. Yeah. I love that storyline. Yeah. They're on the DVDs. Yeah. There's a whole bonus feature. It's like video logs that he's making of himself. So you get more of that actor, more of that where he's just kind of documenting things are going on. And you kind of hear from his perspective, like, oh yeah, I talked to Ken today and blah, blah, blah. And then they go up all the way to him getting bit, him turning, his final one as he's dying, things like that. It's pretty cool to really, it digs a lot more into his character for sure. I like that.
Yeah. I'm glad that we got that, even if it was just a DVD extra.
Mm-hmm.
There was one other conversation that Kenneth had in the bathroom with Andre that I thought was interesting, where they're in there and Andre's talking about hell because he thinks Kenneth is, a man that's spiritual.
Yeah.
And Kenneth just looks at him and is like, well, you're afraid of going to hell. He says, go in the stall, say 5 Hail Marys, wipe your ass, and then you and God can call it even.
Yep.
I was like, okay, so we got a little bit of humor from Kenneth. All right, I'll take it because I liked his character. The only one I really didn't like was Steve. I mean, his character was great as far as annoying as he was.
Oh, yeah. Ty Burrell does an incredible job of being the worst person.
Yes. Yes, because he always had something ridiculous to say. Always a one-liner. Always a response, a snarky response, sarcastic. Yeah, that was
even
him.
When Anna asked him, could you be a bigger prick? And he goes, yeah, probably.
Yeah, you don't have to prove it to us. We can already tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the last thing I really have on Kenneth specifically is more of just his badassery. I love when they're going down, when Michael pulls CJ and Bart out of the cell because they know their way down to return on the power, return on the lights. And then Kenneth shows up and he's, oh, you're coming with us? Nah, you're coming with me. I've done this before. Which I love. He's like, do you even know how to use that thing? Talking about the gun that Michael's holding. He goes, well, this is the dangerous end. I love he just walks over there, turns off the safety. Now it is. Great exchange. I love it.
He came in at the best time, too, because CJ was trying to talk Michael into giving him a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Kenneth was there, for backup. Unofficial, unplanned backup.
Yeah.
It was the perfect time. He actually, though, he agreed with Michael when Michael was talking about Frank needing to be put down, basically, because of the bite. But I, like you said, I really liked that they allowed him to have time with his daughter. And then instead of just killing him outright, they just waited for him to turn. Because, I mean, Frank's deterioration from when he arrived till when he went, that was not a very long time.
No, he looked fine when he showed up.
Yeah. Then he just looked like a skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
A sweating skeleton. Like, I felt bad for his daughter because she'd already lost everything.
Frank is great. Just a phenomenal Matt Frewer.
Yeah.
He's so good. And he's not in the movie for very long. You got him a little bit longer because the director's cut, again, there's an extended scene between him and Nicole. We don't really get that in the regular version. So it's I'm glad that is in the director's cut, that they do have that little moment where they really get to be together. But yeah, so we don't get Matt Frewer for long, but the little bit that he's there for, he does an incredible job with. He's awesome. I mean, yeah, he's Max Headroom, but he's done some other great stuff. He was in Fear the Walking Dead before it got real bad. About the time it was getting real bad.
Yes.
But his character was interesting and fun there. And of course the 90s adaptation of The Stand, which we've been doing a lot with. He's Trash Can Man. So yeah, he's good at playing some really interesting roles. And so the character of Frank in this movie is not a very off-the-wall role like he's played in a lot of things. He's done things in drag, and he's done, he goes all out in a lot of different things. But this one's a very, subtle, smaller character, but even with that, he puts so much heart and emotion into the little bit that he has. Love Matt Frewer.
Yeah. It's funny that you just mentioned Fear the Walking Dead, because someone else in this movie was in Fear the Walking Dead as well.
Oh, yeah?
Earlier seasons, before it got bad. Kevin Zegers. Yes. I think I first saw him.
I forgot that he was the Vultures leader.
Yes.
That is Terry.
That is
Man,
Terry.
I didn't put that together. Dang.
Yeah,
wow.
I did just now. Because you brought it up, and I'm like, oh, yes, he was on it. Yes. He was before things got bad.
Yes.
A step back. Yeah, I saw him first, I think, in Air Bud.
Mm-hmm.
When he was just a little kid. Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, did you have anything else on Kenneth?
Well, something that kind of happened after Kenneth. A moment in the movie that I know Pake can appreciate, because the song that plays it's a wonderful song performed by someone in a way that is not like the original whatsoever.
Oh yeah, that's actually in my note with Matt Frewer, because that's whenever Kenneth takes him out, and it goes to black, and then screech from the zombie Frank, bang, oh shit.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So Richard Cheese's rendition of Down with the Sickness, which was performed by Disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
And actually at the very end of the credits, I think it plays.
Yeah, we get the Disturbed version at the credits.
They played that song during this moment of people bonding with each other. Monica and Steve are having their little sexy time. It's
the first movie. Well, last week when I talked about, we get that little montage of them enjoying the amenities of the mall and having that was this movie's version of that.
Yeah. I mean, Nicole and Terry got all cozy. Mm-hmm. Michael and Anna are spending time together. And of course, Glenn is with his shoes, which is something he enjoys very much. Yeah. He's embracing who he is, and I actually enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, so Kenneth and Andy are playing their rooftop chess. Yes. Kenneth is also playing basketball, which Ken Foree's Peter plays basketball in the original. There's a tie-in on that. But yeah, the rooftop stargazing, trying on clothes, making sex tapes, all the normal things you do at the mall.
Yes. Yes, always.
And then I mentioned this last week as a tease, but remember last week I talked about the tennis ball falling off the roof into the zombies, and I said, I wonder if that was an homage for something. It's a very loose connection, but this little montage here set to Richard Cheese ends with Steve hitting a golf ball off of the roof and it nailing a zombie in the head.
Yes. Yes, and right after this, we learn that Andy and Kenneth have moved on from chess, and now they're playing a new game where Andy picks out who's going to get shot, and Kenneth gets to shoot them in the head.
They find
like
zombies that look like celebrities. It's one of my favorite things of, not just in this movie, but in any movie I've ever seen.
Kenneth does the same thing. Like, he'll put someone's name down, and Andy will go after them. Andy will shoot one. So it's kind of like this back and forth game. I don't know that there's really a winner. It's just kind of interesting to watch them do it. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so that's really all I have on Kenneth. I liked him. He's probably one of my favorites.
He's great. Ving Rhames, so awesome.
He's been in another zombie movie that I don't know if we'll ever cover, and I can't off the top of my head remember what it's called. But he did play a badass in another movie.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty much a badass in everything he does.
Yes.
So the next character to jump into, I think me and you agree, probably has the best arc of all characters. And then we've talked about him a little bit. That is the leader of the security trio, CJ.
Yes.
And so I'll talk about, Bart and Terry a little bit too, kind of in these notes. But yeah, we are introduced to them when our group goes up the elevator, and they're standing right there, very much like, this is our place. We need you to leave. And they talk them into letting them come in. That's when our cast starts building. But there was a fourth member of the security team. But
oh, yes. Yes,
Ben Cozine. But he's just a twitcher now.
Yes.
Which CJ said, fuck him. Told him not to go downstairs.
It's funny that you mention a twitcher because we learned that term from someone very well known in the zombie world.
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to go ahead and go in there?
I think you have to go in that door. Open that door, Pake.
All right, let's open that door. We get 3 amazing cameos from the original 1978 version, and that is the first one, yes. Tom Savini, the county sheriff, talking about, put another round in that woman over there. Look, she's a twitcher.
Yes. And that's where we learn, too, that they need to shoot them in the head, because before that, Kenneth was shooting them, and of course, they're not going down. They're not going to go down. When they were first trying to get in the mall, you have to shoot them in the head. Of course, we know this, but they don't know this. Yeah. And it was the sheriff that explained that you have to shoot them in the head. Yep.
And Bart's a big fan of that. I love it. A twitcher.
Yes.
I like this guy. Yeah. This guy's fucking cool. It's great. Then cameo number 2 comes pretty much. All of them are pretty quick, back to back, because it's while they're watching TV. They're all on the TV. Second one, of course, the general I mentioned earlier, who's telling people, come to Fort Pastor, we'll get you here. That is Scott Reniger, which was Roger in the 78 version. And the final one, and best one by far,
my God,
Forey Peter from the original movie as the TV televangelist. His line. The director's cut has a little extra stuff that I'm glad that they left out, because I know he's supposed to be. It really drives home the whole religious kind of shitty aspect of his character.
Oh, so yes, it does.
I'm glad they took that out, because in the original version, I have everything he says written out. They don't, because in the director's cut, he goes on blaming the whole zombie apocalypse on gay marriage and stuff like that, which is like, okay, whatever.
Abortion.
I mean, I get it. Yeah. It's supposed to be the religious zealot fucker, but yeah, like, whatever. The TV televangelist. But I like in the original, all he says is, how do you think your God will judge you? Well, friends, now we know. When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Which is a quote from Peter that he uses in the first movie. I told you that quote was coming back in a big way.
Yes. It was great. It was so good. Like, I appreciated it even more this time watching this movie, because as we've said before, watching a movie that you're going to cover on a podcast, you look at it through a different lens. And so when I'm watching this, it made me appreciate the cameos even more. And there were other little nods to different things that we can talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we should probably pop back to CJ.
Oh, yeah.
And give him some attention.
Got lots of good stuff for him. Yeah, I kind of broke down the trio. CJ is the tough guy douchebag who thinks he's a leader, but he really has no idea what he's doing. Terry is the young guy, the trainee with a big heart, but he's naive and scared at first and kind of has to learn how to adapt to this world. And Bart, he's just Bart. Like,
oh, goodness.
He's goofy, kind of just, the forever sidekick to CJ who just says whatever dumb shit's on his mind. And he's just Bart.
He does whatever CJ tells him to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And so with CJ, he has kind of this arc where he starts off as like, this just a douchebag who's trying to boss everybody around and be the leader and take over. But then as he realizes, like, these people aren't just, pushovers. And so he does kind of assimilate and work into the group with them. And it kind of culminates where they, take them away to the cells because he doesn't want to let the people from the truck in. Yes, CJ is a dick. However, he's not wrong in the grand scheme of things. If you really think about it, like, morally, yes, they should let people in. They should help people. They know that the people in the truck are alive, as Anna points out. Well, how do you know? Well, they are driving a truck and shooting guns.
Yes. Yes.
But yes,
love that.
I do have to give some merit to what CJ is saying in that scene, because with more people comes more risk and liability. And when they let these people in, it does cause some death and ends up making it to where they have to leave. So in the end, he wasn't wrong, even if he was a dick.
No, and he was trying to keep himself safe. Like, he wanted to survive, and he was focused on himself. And, I mean, it was a unilateral thing. He didn't want to let anyone in, because if it's just the three of us, we can control the situation. It doesn't add anything else to the equation.
Yeah.
But Terry, I think, was in a different mindset about that, because he wanted to let them in.
Yeah.
He just didn't know what to do. And it took him a little time, but then I feel like he found his backbone.
Mm-hmm. He did. Yeah, that empathetic heart won out. And when they get they snag CJ's gun and Bart's gun and stuff away from them and hold them, Terry makes that decision right there to hold his gun on CJ too. And he's switches teams. So we get CJ when they're being taken to the cells. He's just like, we're all going to die now. Thanks, Terry. Traitor.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Terry had a big heart. And I think that that was his first, like, man up moment where he chose a different side than what was in front of him.
Yeah. Also, I mentioned Bart's line that I love so much. But that's that scene, with the timers go off and all the electricity, the power and the music and everything go on, and it freaks Bart out. He just wakes up pointing his gun everywhere. I love CJ in that moment. Hey, dumbass. It's the timers. It's 8:00. Terry, go turn them off. It's Bart's turn. You're the trainee, man. Shit rolls downhill.
Oh, I hated that.
I love that line.
It made me so mad. It made me so mad. So mad.
But while Terry's got to go down, then I'm definitely with Terry on this. The first thing he's thinking about is, I wish somebody was working at Hallowed Grounds. Yeah, I'd be thinking about the coffee shop too, man. That's
Oh my gosh. Yeah, not me, other than if they made, like, I don't know, smoothies or frappuccinos. I'd be down with that.
Because I even picked that up when we covered 78 last week, was, their priorities when they go into the little grocery store in there was cheese and coffee. I was like, yeah, it's important.
Yes.
We didn't get the cheese this time, but the coffee was still there.
Yeah, we could go on for a long time talking about the importance of cheese. But we're not going to. Mm-hmm. We're not going to.
Yeah. But yeah, CJ, back to him. That's where his art kind of does changes whenever he gets roped into going down to the parking garage. And then he sees kind of the potential of Kenneth and Michael as allies. And then, everything kind of starts going from there. And you see him getting along more and more with this group up to the point where when they decide to go, I had to write down everything that CJ said. It's another one of my favorite little quotes. It's a great exchange. It's just the way he puts it. He goes, "Excuse me, not to shit on anyone's riff here, but just let me see if I grasp this concept, okay? You're suggesting that we take some fucking parking shuttles, reinforce them with some aluminum siding, and then just head on over to the gun store where we watch our good friend Andy play some cowboy movie, jump on the covered wagon bullshit? Then we're going to drive across the ruined city through a welcome committee of a few 100,000 dead cannibals, all so we can sail off into the sunset on this fucking asshole's boat? Head for some island that for all we know doesn't even exist." To which Kenneth responds with, "Yeah." And then Tucker goes, "Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah." Anna just nods. Michael goes, "Yeah." And then we get a thumbs up from Steve. Goes back to CJ, and all he has to say about it is, "Okay. I'm in."
Of course he is. Whereas that CJ at the beginning would not have been in that. He would not have been there. He learned to care a little bit about other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah. So then they gotta, go down, do all of their stuff, talk about it a little bit more, because then it goes with Andy and, all of that planning. But, yep, he's on board, and then we see him really kind of stepping up and doing his thing. They barely escape the zombies, into the elevator, go back up from underground, where that's that second magical Muzak moment. Talk about we get I'm All Out of Love playing in its Muzak form, where CJ just has to say, "I love this song."
I know. Listening to it, I'm like, oh God, it's Air Supply. But you know what? James Gunn, he likes a little Air Supply.
Mm-hmm.
He really does. And he's the one who wrote this script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie is just a magical combination
Adventure.
of Zach Snyder and James Gunn. Of course it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because Zach Snyder can be a great director. Do I like what he's done with a lot of the DC stuff? No.
No.
But whenever he's really got, where he's not having to adapt something too much, even though, yes, this is a remake of a George Romero movie, but like you mentioned in the behind the scenes, he really wanted it to be its own thing as well. And so I think when you let Zach Snyder be really creative, I think some great things can happen.
Definitely. I agree.
And then James Gunn, just, yeah.
Well, James Gunn actually did another movie that we're probably going to cover on this podcast at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yes. For sure.
I'm very excited to do that.
So yeah, CJ steps up pretty big. They get into the battle buses, as I call them.
The battle buses. That makes me think of battle bots.
I love battle bots so much. But yeah, but yeah, they take off, and they don't make it very far out of the garage before they're immediately swamped with zombies. But they had planned for this. CJ is the propane expert. Takes a flared propane tank, throws it into the zombies, and shoots it, blasts it. It's not the best CGI. Also not the worst.
No,
cool.
We've seen some bad. We've seen some worse.
It was great for 2004, for sure. And yeah, then the drive, the flipping, all the bad things that happen. Monica is the most useless character in this whole movie. She literally says 5 words the entire movie. She exists solely for the purpose of getting chainsawed by Glenn, and that's okay.
Oh, don't forget about the pornos that she was making with Steve. You know, the sad thing is, a lot of her scenes didn't get in the movie because they did like her. They liked the actress, but they just didn't put the scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
So she came across as being very one-dimensional.
Yeah. But then I love how CJ does, kind of like Michael at the end, realizes he makes, he has to make the honorable sacrifice choice, which, again, is not the CJ that we were introduced to at the beginning of this movie.
No, not at all.
At all. So that whole, he's like, fucking, go figure. Of course, he's got to end up sacrificing himself and kind of being okay with it. And he's like, how did I end up here? But he ends up, being, enjoy liking these people enough and being in the cause enough to be like, you know what, this is how it's got to go. And he blows himself up, the bus, the zombies, that final propane tank. It's a good way to go out.
Yeah.
He does have a great arc.
Yeah, agreed. His was my favorite arc because I feel like he started in a place that was pretty rough, and he, over time, and not a lot of time, he kind of just became one of the team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh my God, why is his name blanking out of my head?
Tucker, yes,
Tucker. Okay.
I knew where you're going.
When Tucker, you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So Tucker saves CJ, but in the process falls into the manhole and breaks his leg. He had to have broken his leg. I mean, he already had a bum ankle to begin with.
Yeah.
And CJ just grabs him and starts pulling him along until he couldn't anymore.
He hands him the guns too, hands him the pistols, which lets Tucker go out in the most badass way.
I know. I loved it. And Tucker's just like, shoot me in the head, because he didn't want to become one.
Yep.
So, and CJ came through with that, gave him the out that he wanted.
Yeah.
But he at least was trying to give him a fighting chance, because they had to run really fast.
Oh, yeah.
And again, although we haven't actually specifically talked about Steve the snake, the sleazy douchebag.
Damn you, Steve Marcus!
I mean, they were going to be stuck in the stairwell because he left.
Yeah, he went down to the buses. He's like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys decided to show up. It's like, they told you to stay. It's like, leave it up to Steve to fuck it all up after he was specifically told, don't fuck it up, yes. Steve.
And he was supposed to go on that trip, and Tucker was supposed to stay at the door, which that would have been a much smarter thing to do as far as Tucker would have survived. Yeah. But I can't imagine if Steve had been on that mission, how much worse things would have gone.
Right.
Because he was useless. Again, we go back to these comparison. CJ is useful. Steve is useless.
Yeah.
There you go.
Steve is awful. But if I don't love his smarminess anyway, just his lines, like Ty Burrell kind of breaks character a little bit of like his usual, acting and things. He's because he's known more. I mean, Modern Family is what he's most known for. He is a comedic sitcom actor, very funny, very likable guy. And so for him to have played this role and just been the biggest asshole of all time, I love that he can do it.
He knocked it out of the park. He really did. He was such an ass.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we should move on to him.
Yeah, I don't really have much of anything else to say that I haven't.
Me either.
Actually, the only thing I haven't said was just another one of his lines right there, kind of when we first get introduced to him, where he's just, they bring him in off the truck, and just everything he says is just awful. But then, when Kenneth decides, oh, I'm going anyway, and Michael's like, no, people here that need you, and Kenneth responds with, fuck you, and starts walking off. And I love Steve's line. He goes, well, it's nice to see that you've all bonded through this disaster.
He just brings an outsider's perspective, and he's very perceptive of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah, I don't really have anything else about Steve either. I just couldn't stand him.
Yeah.
He brought that element of that frustrated you and pissed you off to the movie. And I feel like there always has to be that one, you know, that really drives you nuts. And he's that one. And I was not sorry to see him go. And I was not sorry that Anna got to put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
Although, if I were Anna, I might have just let him be alive, let him stay a zombie. And because that might have been a fate that's even worse.
Right. But she got to get the keys. Easier to pull
She
the
did.
keys off a dead body.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, not much of it. Most all of my other notes for characters are now kind of just like one-off little other character notes. Because I think even like Terry and Nicole and stuff, I've said most everything about,
too.
other than, Nicole. We don't get a lot of her. Again, Frank's daughter. So there's some great like moments that ended up getting cut out of the director's cut anyway with her and Frank, her and her dad. But we don't get a lot of her other than she's just kind of there with Terry. Her and Terry have a little bit of a thing. And then she has this connection to Chips, the dog, that they found in the parking garage. And so when they send Chips over to Andy with some food, because the zombies don't care about animals, they just ignore him completely.
No, that was another weird thing.
Yeah. And so that was the plan. And it almost worked perfectly until it didn't. Poor Andy.
Andy should have watched that door a little more closely.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it got down.
But then Nicole somehow teleports down to the ground, to the truck, real fast to head over there to save Chips. Sure. But now they ended up having to go after her, which they would have had to go over there anyway, because the plan was, they have to get to the store to load up on ammo and propane tanks and all the things that they needed to make it to the boat.
Yeah, they just weren't ready to go then.
Yeah.
They were still working on the vehicles at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But they needed his ammo. I did notice, Nicole did a lot of graffiti art.
Yeah.
She was doing a lot of graffiti. Yeah, that is pretty much all I had on her. I feel like she'd lost everything, so at that point, Chips is what she had. She didn't want to lose anything else. The only characters we really haven't touched on are Luda and Andre. Like, we really haven't...
Yeah.
Basically, Andre takes out one of the characters I really liked, which was Norma. I thought she was great.
Yeah. We notice when they get in the elevators up before they even meet CJ and the security team, they walk past that carousel baby store.
Yeah.
Right before, and I was like, ooh, big old moment coming on later there, huh?
Yes. Yeah, she and Andre take up residence in Carousel. And, yeah. Andre really doesn't want anyone to come and see Luda.
Mm-hmm. He's been hiding the fact that she was infected this whole time.
Yeah, he doesn't want anyone to see her, and it's because she doesn't look very good.
No, not at all. And yeah, this whole thing, it's definitely... I'm a gore horror fanatic, so obviously there's a sick part of me that loves this scene. But also, it is the darkest and most disturbing scene, not of just this movie, but like one of all time. Like, I think it's really dark and it's really disturbing. We get Luda turns and dies, but the baby still wants out.
Yeah.
So we literally get a scene of a zombie giving birth to a monster baby.
Yes. Not good at all. I feel like if they had known that she was scratched, they might have been able to save the baby if they did a C-section right away. But Andre didn't want anyone to know because he had just learned about being bitten.
Yeah.
And he was afraid that Luda would be taken out because she had been scratched. I don't think he ever told her what was going to happen because we never saw her with anyone else either.
Yeah.
After that.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts, when she's in the store and he comes in and he looks at her arm, she's starting to look like something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like she's a little like sweaty and
she gets a little fruery.
Fruery. Oh my gosh. And so Norma goes to see them just because, Anna wanted to check in on them and Andre had blown it off.
Yeah.
Said, no, everything's fine. Norma goes in and sees what's happening.
Yeah. And that's where it takes a turn from dark and disturbing and horrifying to just really sad and also dark and disturbing and horrifying.
Yeah. Very sad.
Andre's just lost it. Like, he has snapped.
Yeah.
He's, Norma comes in and sees the zombie Luda and is like, pulls out the gun. Like, what we have to do. And Andre, like, he's not thinking clearly. Like I said, he is snapped.
Not
and he's
at
in this
all.
whole place where he's, well, what do you want to, you want to kill Luda? You know, you want to kill my family? Like, that's all he's worried about. He's just,
Yeah.
he's
He
done
doesn't
for.
see her as a zombie. He sees her as his wife or
Mhm.
girlfriend or whatever. And the baby. Oh, I didn't need to see the baby.
Right.
Oh, I didn't need it.
Yeah, that's where we get, because it all happens so fast, but Norma shoots zombie Luda, which then Andre snaps completely and shoots Norma, and then Norma shoots him back, and it just becomes this slow scene of them just shooting each other, bullet casings falling on the ground, and they all die. Group runs in, you know, after hearing the shots, watch Norma's final breath, and then they just look at the depressing carnage, and then end up having to take out the zombie baby at the end. It's like, fuck. It is
Yeah,
heavy.
not fun. Not fun. And then they go to have like that little memorial service.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we learned too is it's not like everyone has this virus and they're going to turn after. Because if you die without being bitten, you don't come back.
Yeah.
So it's not like The Walking Dead.
Yeah. So that's some of the Walking Dead and Romero stuff. So I'll go ahead and it's a good time for that transition or whatever to like take that little tangent. These zombies are not like Romero's original style, like in the original Dawn of the Dead. And Walking Dead uses Romero style zombies, which
Yes.
And these ones are fast, not slow. They turn really quick. We don't have that kind of longer period before they turn. And then another big divergence from the original Romero style is, of course, Romero zombies, just like The Walking Dead. Walking Dead is paying homage to Romero, using Romero zombies in this way. In all the Romero movies, the zombies turn no matter how the person died. It's like a virus thing that everybody has. And that's what The Walking Dead does too. And since this is a remake, Snyder does not abide by that rule. And we find that out because Norma and Andre died from gunshots. They stay dead because they weren't bitten.
Yes. That's true.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's like the little notes that I had is just kind of the Romero style versus where this diverges. But then it's cool because, again, The Walking Dead, for anybody who watches that, did adapt the Romero style zombie for that.
Yeah, I liked that too. I thought it was cool. I liked their idea of doing a re-envisioning instead of a straight remake.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a clever term to use.
Yeah.
All right.
Notes I had on characters. I think the only other one I had was just, again, kind of Andy. I talked about him a lot. You know, we get those DVD bonus stuff. So really, the only other one I had on him even was just, we get to see zombie him on the rooftop. He's writing something, and it's just blood. It's that, you know, resorting back to things that they know, which they did take and adapt from the original version of this movie, which I like. Because they even say that, you know, why are all these zombies showing up at the mall? And it's like, maybe just because of what they're used to, impulse, you know.
Yeah.
And so we see a lot of them doing with zombie Andy still going up to the roof and writing on the whiteboard. And
his turn was quick too.
Yeah.
His turn was real quick. That whoever bit him must have gotten an artery.
Yeah, I mean, you hear him over the radio when he's talking to Kenneth, which, again, he doesn't know that the bites turn. He's been kind of in his own little bubble over there in his store. And so he's like, oh, you guys still coming to get me? And he was like, you know, I think I'll be all right. I mean, man, these things bite hard, though. And when he says that, Kenneth's face drops. He's like, oh.
He's devastated. That's his buddy.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, man, it's bleeding a lot. They really bit me deep. And they're just like, oh, this is not good. And then because even Michael has or is it Anna? I think it was Michael, but it's like, you know, should we tell him? And Kenneth's just like, no. He doesn't have much time anyway. What's the point in depressing him? You know?
Exactly. And, yeah, I don't have any other notes, so whatever you have left.
Just Andy's, and I mean, he gets to have his zombie head blown off in a really cool visual, so...
Oh my goodness,
if there's an upside, at least his zombie version goes out in a really badass looking way, so there's that.
Yeah, Kenneth had to do that. I mean, Kenneth, he was the best shot.
Yeah.
And Andre was a good shot too, but Kenneth was like, he was the sniper. If there was going to be a sniper, it was going to be him.
Mm-hmm.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. So that is all my notes on characters.
All right. Mine too. I have a bunch of other notes on some random things.
Nice.
Outside of the production notes. Like I have a lot this time. But I have some other stuff. Like some homage things and yeah.
Nice. I might have some of those as well. I'm sure you have a little bit more. But yeah, so let me see what I have. Mainly kind of music stuff. And we've talked a lot about, the Richard Cheese cover and then the Disturbed there. People that died also in the credits. Some good music. But the opening credits, I guess, is really what I'll talk about. Just the music. It's The Man Comes Around, Johnny Cash.
Yes.
Chills every time I hear it. Still. Love it so much. But then the opening credits set to Johnny Cash show a lot of newscasts, which are fake for the movie, mixed with footage of actual
things
broadcasts and coverage of like riots and things like that. And then there's also some zombie goodness and stuff thrown in that were also filmed for the movie. But it's very unique the way that they do it, but it also, I feel like, has to be an homage to the original movie. Since that movie picked up in a new studio and them talking about what's going on, this is kind of their way of playing to that, of course, is by having the opening credits being all kind of newscasts and stuff.
Yeah. Something else that was kind of, actually, I think it was creepy about the opening credits. Kyle Cooper did the opening titles.
Yeah.
And it was reported that he used human blood for real.
Oh, nice.
In the creation. So now when you rewatch it, you'll be like, oh.
That's cool.
It adds a whole new dimension, right?
I'm sure I've heard that before, and it's just kind of slipped my mind. Because again, I've watched director commentary and behind the scenes and making ofs of this movie 100 times. So but it's been years. I probably haven't watched a lot of those since I was like young teenager. So been a while.
What else do you have?
Not much other than just the mall itself, Crossroads Mall. Again, you mentioned, old mall that really was, decommissioned and anything, so they could just kind of come up with a name, do all the other stuff they wanted to do with it and create something fresh.
Yes.
And clean. And then a lot of the store stuff, Reflex Sports, Hallowed Grounds, Coffee Shop. I mean, just those two right there at the beginning of the first two we really see. I was like, well, what more do you need? Croquet mallets and caffeine.
It makes for a great time.
Yeah.
There were more like Alias Telecom. Bookmark was a bookstore.
Yeah.
I think it was CJ that mentioned Case Hardware. And then of course they made a big mess in Metropolis.
Yeah.
And Carousel, which was the maternity store. Those were all the ones because I looked specifically to try to find.
Now, I don't know much about like department stores like clothing and stuff, but the store that Glenn is trying his shoes on in, I think Monica gets lingerie and stuff from, is Galen Ross. I don't know if that's a real thing or not because I don't follow that.
Guess what? It's not a real store, and they named it for the actress.
That's right, Galen. Yeah, I should have made that connection because that is Francine from the first movie. We talked about her.
Francine from the first movie.
That's right.
That was an homage to her. Yes. So that's not a real store.
That is right.
They just made it for her.
As I was like, as you started saying, I was like, oh my God, we just talked about that last week. I knew her name was in my head for something. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you notice that Ving Rhames' character was named Kenneth?
Yeah, it was in like Ken Forey. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yep.
There is a diner there called Wooly's Diner, and that comes from you know who.
Oh, yeah.
From the first film that we Yes, him. Yep. Wooly. Yes. There is a WGON traffic helicopter that makes an appearance, which that's an homage. The commercial on the TV when it switches to the special report near the beginning of the film is a commercial for a Subaru WRX that Zach Snyder directed. That's kind of neat.
That's cool.
All right. Let's see. And I have one more. Zack Snyder wanted his zombies to run at full speed because he didn't want that connection to the original.
Yeah.
But he was inspired by 28 Days Later.
I can see that for sure. And one other thing I don't have written down, but I just thought about it. When they show kind of like the spread of stuff that they had for like dinner on the table, and they had like that big meeting where they were talking about, what did you do before and blah, blah, blah. There is a bucket of chicken, red and white bucket, but it is not KFC for copyright issues. So I don't know what it's supposed to stand for, but they got some nice fried chicken from PFK. Whatever that is.
I'm not sure. A K. I don't know.
Like I don't even have that written down. I just remember it. It just comes to my mind visualizing the movie. I'm like, oh yeah, the PFK chicken.
Gosh.
I don't.
Oh my gosh. Ugh. All right. Well, that's what I had. Do you have anything else before we move on to production notes?
Just a couple little zombie things, which I covered most of them, is kind of the difference between, the Romero original zombies and then what they're doing with here. So I think only other thing was I had a couple of little notes about the parking garage itself. The crew in the parking garage meet Chips the dog, aw, and then bye Bart, aw.
Peg, you're the only one saying aw about Bart.
Right. And the zombie that takes out Bart is, climbing on the pipes above him with no legs, which does that make any sense? Absolutely not. Is it so freaking cool that I don't care? 100%. Because, of course, it was a real-life paraplegic stuntman that did that bit, and he's super badass, and I love it.
Yes.
I do remember watching a lot of the behind-the-scenes with him and them filming that scene, and it's super cool.
You know that the jogger that was missing an arm,
mm-hmm.
he actually was missing an arm, which I think is really cool that they incorporated that into the movie, the people that were playing the roles. That's very inclusive, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then, that's really it, other than those zombies kind of on the attack, and they end up having to kind of lock themselves into a little fenced-in area, little fuel supply spot, gasoline, Zippo, light them up. Yeah.
This is when I thought CJ crossed into the, okay, I can be a decent person. The look that he gave Bart while Bart was getting ready, like he was going to be devoured, gave me this feeling of, he feels it. And then when he lit the gas to blow things up.
Yeah.
That was when I noticed, that's when I thought he started to really cross to the more hero side of the fence.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, all right. That is it. I think somehow I have managed to exhaust my notes on Dawn of the Dead 2004.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, here is what I have. I have a few things. One, the first one, I have to say this. James Gunn received a lot of fan backlash when he was picked to write this film. A lot of the hate messages claimed, quote, the hack who wrote the Scooby-Doo movie shouldn't be in charge of Dawn of the Dead. Well, I think he proved that wrong.
If only they knew the
what was coming
beauty of James Gunn in the future. Yes.
I know. They didn't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
Now they should.
Because now, if you could go from now and look back, they had that futuristic, be like, no, it's the guy that did, which I guess these things wouldn't matter to them anyway, unless they were big comic book nerds. But, the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy and the new Suicide Squad. But
yeah.
Again, back then, in 2004, neither of those things mean anything unless you're like a super comic nerd that knew those things. Because they're not very well-known adaptations of comic characters until the movies that James Gunn did got a hold of them. I mean, Suicide Squad was done before, but we won't talk about that one.
We won't talk. That doesn't exist. And Peg is a super comic book and Marvel movie nerd. If you didn't know, but I think you already did know. That's not a surprise. Okay, so Richard Rubinstein, who was a frequent collaborator of George A. Romero, he held the rights to the original film, and he wasn't sure he wanted to sell them because he was concerned that the film would not hold up to Newman's vision. He thought that the studio would probably sanitize it and just make it not what Newman was, not what Newman had on his mind. But he was swayed by the fact that Mark Abraham, who was another producer involved with this movie, he had a long track record in keeping that creative integrity in studio films. So he decided to go ahead with it. So glad he did, or we would have been robbed of this.
Yeah. And then what would be my favorite zombie movie of all time? I don't know. Don't even want to think about it.
No. All right. James Gunn took the original premise of survivors in a mall and put them in situations that would push them to have to evacuate. Scott Frank and Michael Tolkien also did some rewriting on James Gunn's script to kind of fine-tune it. They don't get a lot of the credit, but he gives them credit for the work that they did in helping to fine-tune everything. Andrew Nesgaromny wanted to shoot in an upscale mall that was destined for demolition. Thus, he found the Thornhill Square shopping mall. The additions included the crew completely redid the mall in over 8 weeks. Additions included 14 stores, parking structures, a warehouse, and that beautiful water fountain that we saw near the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
The makeup effects were by David Leroy Anderson, who had won 2 Academy Awards for Best Makeup, including The Nutty Professor and Men in Black. He was also part of the makeup team for that wonderful film we covered not too long ago called Cabin in the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
He is married to Nancy herself, Heather Langenkamp, who, of course, was Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street. They own AFX Studio, a visual effects company, and they worked together on this film. She actually did some of the makeup herself. So I thought that was kind of cool. She stayed in the zone of creepy.
Yeah.
So they researched various states of body decomposition and decay, including looking at real forensic photos, to create this 3-stage look. Similarly, there were different colors of blood that were used for the zombies in the different stages.
Yeah.
The first one included like pale skin with the fresh red blood. The second had moist wounds with the skin breaking and more brown blood, which kind of made them look like, oh, they've been dead for a few weeks. And then the third is more of the skeleton coming through, wounds dried up, and the skin sliding off. And the blood had an oily black color, which kind of showed that they'd been dead for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
As a contrast to the original, which we talked about last week, Savini only had 8 people on his team trying to manage all of the extras. This movie had 50 artists working on it. So Ving Rhames wanted to be in this film so bad that after he heard about it, he tracked down the producers so he could be part of it. He came to them about starring in the film saying, I want to be in this movie because the black guy lives. I'm like, oh. Some members of the camera crew wore plastic sheeting during the filming because some of the goriest scenes with the fake blood caused it to be flying around. It was getting everywhere.
That's how you know you're on a great set.
Yes. Come home covered in blood. The word zombie is never used in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, in 2005, George A. Romero did an interview with Simon Pegg for Time Out, and he said, it was better than I expected. I thought it was a good action film. The first 15 to 20 minutes were terrific, but it sort of lost its reason for being. It was more of a video game. I'm not terrified of things running at me. It's like Space Invaders. There was nothing going on underneath. Subsequently, I've read other reports that Romero actually did like the remake more than what is descripted here. And that is all I have for production notes.
All right. Well, then with that, I think, like I said, somehow we have managed
Oh my goodness.
to cover it all. And
Just in time.
Well, then with that, let's see what people say about Dawn of the Dead. Let's answer. Feedback poll.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, we've got a little bit of feedback this week, and as is the usual, the first one is not Dawn of the Dead related, and that is okay. We always love to go back and see what people say about previous things, but it is into this season, so we're trucking. But we have a bit of YouTube feedback on the Tomorrow War, which is awesome. We don't get that a whole lot, and so we are on YouTube. For those who don't know, we do say it every week, but sometimes people just kind of hear the feedback section just kind of phase out over them. They glaze over, like, okay.
Yes.
So we are on. All of these are on YouTube, and it's still just like an audio form. There's not like a video of us, but it's there, so you can pull these up and listen there. And we had somebody who did and gave us a little feedback on our Tomorrow War episode, and that comes from Anthony O. He said, "Thanks for the commentary. I listened to it with the movie on and sound down. Daphne sounds a bit Australian with some words, like when she says straightforward at 14 minutes. Which, interesting.
I never thought of it that way.
Are you secretly Australian, Daphne?
I wish. I did respond to his comment and said that I've always wanted to visit Australia and the UK. Those are two of the places I've always wanted to visit. But no, I'm not Australian. It'd be such a cool accent to have, though. Yeah.
It is fun.
Nope, It's me with my New England, Maine accent. That's what you get.
Mm-hmm. Which is still good.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Anthony, for listening and giving your thoughts. Like I said, it doesn't even have to be all about the movie sometimes. We just like to hear what people are thinking about the podcast. So any little thing, we always love it.
Yeah. Some of our episodes, too, on YouTube have gotten more attention. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't have as much attention on Spotify or iTunes, but on YouTube, they are definitely getting a lot of listens. So it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one we have is for Dawn of the Dead 2004. It's from Tony. Hi, Tony. Good to hear from you again this week. She says, my favorite zombie movie. I'm sure you will cover all my favorite parts. I love the music, Down with the Sickness by Disturbed, and The Man Comes Around by Johnny Cash. Excellent choices. Looking forward to this one. Tony, me too. I love Disturbed, but I love the Richard Cheese version of Down with the Sickness too. It's just, It's great.
There you go. See, Tony's saying her favorite zombie movie, and but listening to this, it also is mine. We're on the same page again, Tony. We're friends. We're good. Everything's fine. 30 Days of what? Who cares? We're buds again, and everything's fine.
Tony, I think you're going to be excited when we get to the end and share what our movie's going to be next, because I think it's one that you like.
Yeah. And I think I'm a lot nicer and better, happier about it than the last one that you really liked.
I think so. Yes.
Yes. All right. And we have one more text feedback from Facebook on this movie from Damien, which he came through because he said he had to do another one like he did last week, and he's here. And on Dawn of the Dead, he says, "Oh shit, Fast Zombies. This was such a great movie filled with action and likable characters. Anna, Kenneth, Michael, and even Steve love Ty Burrell. And I appreciated CJ's character growth, turning from asshole mall cop to a valuable member of the group.
Yeah.
Got a kick out of the music playing throughout the mall and in the elevator scenes. And the shuttle buses driving through the horde was amazing. Only negative I have is the ending. I'm just not a real fan of movies that kill everyone at the end."
Well,
yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I don't know. Did they show them dying? I mean, I know the camera fell down. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't think there's a lot of hope for them.
No, they maybe should have figured something else out. It was a great idea in theory, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you pointing out CJ's arc, as you've listened to this episode now, that was clearly one of our favorite things about this movie as well, too. So, yeah.
His growth was great.
Team CJ. Who would have thought you'd say that at the beginning? I
know. At the beginning, I just thought he was a waste of space. But not by the end. So, next up, we have a couple of voicemails. First one is from our friend Eric.
The 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake is my favorite zombie movie. Hey, Daphne and Pake, this is Eric. I just wanted to leave some feedback. This was the first movie I ever bought with my own hard-earned money, and I love the shit out of this movie. The characters, setting, the arc of the story, the zombies being fast, scary, running at you zombies rather than the slow shamblers from like the original Romero Night of the Living Dead. Gosh, I just love everything about this freaking movie. It was really cool to watch this as the back half of the double dip. I don't think I've ever seen this movie so close together in time to the 1978 original. So it was really cool to see where they pulled a lot of the inspiration for some of the scenes and sequences in the 2004 version that I love so much. Went ahead and got when I originally bought it, I had gotten it on DVD way back when it first released. So saw that it has since been released in HD digital, and it was really, really great to watch it that way. Looking forward to hearing your coverage. We'll also mention that they came out with a Blu-ray special anniversary edition with extra interviews with Zach Snyder, James Gunn, and a few other people. That's totally worth it if you're a big fan of this movie. So thanks. Looking forward to hearing your coverage. Bye.
Thanks, Eric. We are rounding out our feedback today in a way that we have become accustomed to. We have another edition of Live Steving. This is the Dawn of the Dead 2004 edition. And let's just get to it and hear what Steve has to say.
Hello, Pake and Daphne. This is Steve, and this is for Dawn of the Dead 2004, the Zach Snyder joint. And it's not 3 freaking hours long like the last one I watched. Wait, is this zombie movie going to show us how the zombie apocalypse started? A great fake out with the guy laying in the ambulance with his legs sticking out. That was a great fake out, Zach. Who would give a little kid an old person's name like Vivian? That's just wrong.
I like
Apologies
Vivian.
to all the Vivians out there. What the heck? Zombie kids again? Okay, this thing spread quickly and, like, went downhill swift. Oh! That dude just got with an ambulance. Johnny Cash over the opening credits. I couldn't interrupt that. Well, there is a lot of space in this mall. Okay, I see an elevator as being problematic. What if the doors open right to zombies? Hey, is that Tom Savini
Yes,
as the sheriff with the sunglasses on? I love Hannah. Captain Obvious. Well, for one thing, they're driving a truck. They're shooting guns. Okay, I figured that was the whole reason about backing up the truck was because there was people in it. These guys. Hey, it's Phil Dunphy from Modern Family. Ty Burrell. This is pretty bad. One guy's got a bite, and this other woman looks like he's on the verge of death. And Matt Frewer. Excellent. He's the guy with the bite. Okay, that's just wrong. You have this upbeat, jazzy music now, and they're playing chess across the street. Every movie needs a Steve. Just thinking that zombie looks like Jay Leno, and that's what they trust. Yeah, that's hilarious. And I guess Andy from Andy's Guns is doing the sniping. Okay, so blood means we have confirmed that there's zombies down here. That was quick thinking with the gasoline. Man, that was like the most intense, 3 minutes or 4 minute scene I've seen in a long time. Wow. Oh, this is not going to be good. Andre, you got to take her brain out. I don't know what's going on with that baby. This is just horrifying. If that baby comes out as a zombie, I don't know. I have no words. Hey, seriously, they're going to A-team this to the marina. I love it. Oh, crap. That is not good. Through the doggy door, seriously? I had high hopes for Andy, too. Some of the effects on these headshots are really, really good. Elevator supply. It's really great. Elevator music. Where's Steve? Oh, there he is. He's at the bus. What the? Dude just, with the chainsaw. Damn's right, Kenneth. Steve got what he deserved. How smart. The boat key. Of course. Well, I guess I gotta watch most of the credits because this is hilarious. As the ending was with Michael and all. Okay. I don't know how I feel about that ending, but it was an ending. Talk to you later.
Wow. Well, thanks, Steve.
That was great. Again, one of my favorite things about the live Steving, especially with this movie being Like, my favorite zombie movie is, like, I can, like, play the whole movie in my head. So just listening to your feedback, I know exactly where you are in the movie, and I'm just, like, watching it in my head as I'm listening. I'm like, I'm going on that ride with you, and I love it.
I was just talking about Richard Cheese, and I did hear a little bit of that song when Steve was doing his live Steving. And that, again, it just reminds me of where they are. Like, I can picture the different things that are going on. So if you'd like to send us feedback, like Anthony, Tony, Damien, or Steve, you can do so in a number of ways. You can submit your theories and feedback at our Facebook page at facebook.com/runforyourlivespodcast. You can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet at us on Twitter at RFYL Podcast. You can reach out to us on Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast. And if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much all the podcast players, as well as YouTube. You can go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all of the links you're ever going to need. And please give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
We do. Always do. And of course, I'll go ahead and give a couple shout outs to some things going on in the podcast universe around us. My other podcast, Strange Indeed. We are still covering the Netflix original limited series, Midnight Mass from Mike Flanagan. Oh my gosh. It's so good. Me and Rima are having such a great time talking about that show. There's so much to break down, and it's so deep and so creepy and so just, I love Flanagan. I love everything he does. And we've already got an announcement for the next Flanagan show after this one.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I love that story. I love that story. This is going to be incredible.
Yeah, so we'll be covering that whenever that comes out. And then, of course, also on Strange Indeed, as like a little extra bonus episode to tag on to the ends of these Midnight Mass episodes, we are also doing some coverage of this season of Great British Baking Show, or Great British Bake Off, depending on what country you're in and what they call it, because it's season 9 or series 12. Again, depending on where you're at, things are all lined up. But yeah, that's been really fun to kind of balance with Midnight Mass, as it's just really light and fun and feel good. So that's been fun. Of course, on House Podcastica, Jason and his rotating panel of hosts have been covering What If. This week is the finale of season 1 of What If. It was quite the finale. I loved it a lot. And so definitely, if you're a fan of Marvel and Disney and What If, check out House Podcastica, Panels to Pixels, or TV Podcast Industries. All 3 of those podcasts will be releasing episodes covering that What If finale. So you got lots of good ways to go to check that stuff out. And some good stuff is coming up on House Podcastica in the near future as well. They'll be covering Wheel of Time and Cobra Kai when it comes back in December. So stuff to look forward to over there as well. Also, Jason's other podcast, his flagship podcast, The Walking Dead Cast. Him and Lucy are back to covering Walking Dead. Still doing that, even though this week, again, finale week of Walking Dead coming up. At least the part 1 finale of this final season, and then we'll probably have to February or something for the next part to start up. But they also will be covering World Beyond and maybe a little bit of Fear the Walking Dead, not fully, but they might touch on it. Like Jason was joking, maybe just like a thumbs up or thumbs down on Fear, and that's about all they're going to cover on that.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah,
but I think they are planning on doing a little more coverage on World Beyond. So if you're a fan of that show, that is now kicking up. I think they're 2 episodes in, so they'll be covering that over there. And then let's see, TV Podcast Industries, I mentioned them earlier for What If, also covering Why the Last Man. If you're a fan of that, check that out. Our friend Damien on his podcast, Watched It in the 80s podcast. Him and guest Jamie covered Friday the 13th, part 2 this week. And then our friend Ben on Wilhelm is doing his Spooktober. We mentioned that last week a little bit, and the first episode of Spooktober is coming up today. Yeah. He is covering the top 5 vampire films. I wonder if a certain one is going to make that list, Tony. I don't know. You might have to to tune into Wilhelm and see if they talk about it. Maybe better than I did.
I hope so. If not, yeah, I think you can find him on all the things and let him know.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, I will give a little sneak preview. The next episode in Spooktober is going to be Alfred Hitchcock movies, and I'm guesting on Wilhelm to talk about my favorite Hitchcock films with Ben. I'm really excited to get to do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of next week on podcasts, Daphne, what's going on next week right here on Run for Your Life?
Okay, so it's been a long time. But this week, we return to the strange world of J.J. Abrams. After a bizarre car accident, Michelle wakes up chained underground and being cared for by an eccentric man whose jealousy leads to mayhem in this science fiction psychological thriller. Released in 2016, the second film in the Cloververse doesn't follow the found footage style of the original, but it still packs a punch when it comes to the creep factor and all the happenings at 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yay!
I think Tony likes this movie, so I'm really excited for her to let us know more about why she likes it.
Yeah, would love to hear from you and anybody else on 10 Cloverfield Lane. It is... I'll go ahead and give a sneak peek, I guess, a little spoiler on how I come down on that one. I love it. I'm a huge fan of the Cloverfield movies, at least the first two. Paradox, I've only seen the one time when it first came out. We might revisit that one eventually. We probably will, and I'll see where we come down on that one. But at least I know Cloverfield and Cloverfield Lane I love immensely. So it's a fun one to talk about for sure. Definitely check it out. Let us know what you think.
We had a great time talking about that. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe it, but, you know, Cloverfield was our second ever episode of Run for Your Lives.
Uh-huh.
Episode 2. And we're, like, beyond that, way beyond that now. So it's kind of cool to look back and think about, man, wow, that was quite a while ago. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
With that, we've come to the end of another fun episode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, or drive, from a horde of decaying zombies running so fast you cut yourself in half while trying to escape them, you'd better drive for your lives.
Bye-bye.